Hi, I'm Tim O'Neill, Kuriyama Marketing Manager. I have with us today Mike Jelonic, our sheet rubber product manager. Mike's here today to tell us a little bit about sheet rubber. So Mike, we have hose and couplings. Everybody's very familiar with those. But then we have kind of this mystery category of sheet rubber, which actually does pretty well for us, but I think a lot of people don't truly understand. What can you tell us about sheet rubber? What is it, and what is it used for?
Well, sheet rubber is basically a rubber that's vulcanized and comes in roll form, as you see here. And traditionally, it's made into thicknesses from 1/32 thin to as much as 2 inches thick. Currently, at the Kuriyama line, we have material up to 1 inch, looking at various other thicknesses. But for the sake of training here, we sell our sheet rubber in rolls only, no cut pieces. 1/32 again to 2 inch thick. And the width is 36 wide, and as wide as we can go is 48 from our current factories. We do have, however, an opportunity to sell 72-inch wide from one of our factories that uses that or buys that as an out-purchased product. But as far as our plants, it's 36 and 48.
Okay. So what is it used for?
Basically, it's used for all products. 80% of the sheet rubber is used for gaskets.
Okay, so sort of like what we'd find in one of our couplings.
Correct. Yeah, most other products then made from sheet rubber would be strips, seals, door seals around garage doors, hangar doors, anything that's needs either air tightness or keep the cold out in the wintertime or heat in certain areas of the country. Can make it also for, use it for vibration dampening around machines, protective coverings, machine packings between gearboxes. So there's various uses, and it depends on what compound that you use, which application it's really suited for.
So are there certain parameters or standards that sheet rubber needs to adhere to?
Yes. All sheet rubber is the parameters against the ASTM D2000, which is the American Society for Testing and Materials. And the D2000 actually is an automotive spec for vulcanized rubber. And in our catalog, we do show the D2000 specification. And one thing that does set us apart from really the run-of-the-mill sheet rubber manufacturers or vendors is we have different grades of our material. For example, here you have a D2000 M2. The M means just basic requirements, like it's rubber or it's black and it's 60 durometer. But if you see the number next to it, which is a 2, the 2 means that in addition to just being general rubber, we did testing. We did either brittle tests in cold temperatures, heat resistance for 20 hours at 212 degrees, whatever the parameter of that specification is. We do have specification sheets that show the differences. But anything that has a grade 2 or higher after the M means there is more testing involved with our material. Both of our factories are ISO 9000. We have certs for everything. And when a gasket cutter opens our catalog, they see these different grades. They know it's just not cheap rubber. You do have the certification backing up what that extra grade is and what the tests constituted that material.
So not all sheet rubber is made alike. So you can order EPDM, you're getting EPDM, but there's varying grades, and having the M2 denotes a higher quality of material.
And also our compounds are a little bit, I would say there's a little bit more percentage in each of our compounds. Like neoprene, some people could have 5-10% of the whole compound is neoprene. Ours is in the teens or maybe even 30% in some cases, 25%. So that M2, by having better, more tests, that means our compound is better.
So less fillers, more high quality, better performance.
Yeah, everything has to have carbon black to keep it together, and other additives. But yes.
So what if somebody needs some type of certification showing the properties of our products?
Yes, we have certifications for every one of our sheet rubber in the catalog. Customer service can help you with that, or myself. It gives you the durometer, which is the hardness of the material, in the case of 60 durometer neoprene, the ASTM specs gives you a 5% plus or minus. So if you have a 60 durometer neoprene, it could be soft as 55 or as hard as 65. If you have a 70 durometer, it could be soft as 65, as hard as 75. So there is that variable there. A lot of gasket cutters have to certify their gasket or whatever their job they're performing with the sheet to the specification that meets the STM, so they have that guideline to follow. Second thing is the tensile strength and elongation. That is the degree a rubber can be stretched or ruptured, meaning that you can pull a piece of 1/8 neoprene 200% of its original gasket size before it tends to break. It's just like a rubber band. If you have a tan rubber band, you pull it 100 times, it starts to get white and phrased and then eventually ruptures. So same with sheet. So.
Okay. So, Mike, our sheet rubber comes in many different types. Can you tell us a little bit about the different types of sheet rubber we have and its characteristics?
Yeah, I would say that the most widely used compound would be SBR, and SBR is just basically plain rubber. To give you a couple examples, like your car tire, that only runs on the cement, rain, snow, ice, so it's just traditional rubber. It's basically for air and water service. You have a garden hose, for example, that has a little washer, the coupling that you attach to your house. There's a little either black or red gasket. That's SBR, because again, your garden hose is supplying water to your lawn, so you don't need anything fancy as far as a compound.
So SBR, service, most common, air and water, economical.
Economical, right. Mm-hmm. Has some abrasion qualities, but not enough to really classify it as abrasive material. So. Okay. Next one would be, I would say, nitrile and neoprene. Those are the two oil-based elastomers. Nitrile is a little bit less oil-resistant than neoprene. Neoprene gives you standard oil protection, if you will, for petroleum oil like mineral oil, just motor oil, stuff like that. It's not really enhanced with an octane, no diesel, stuff like that, where nitrile is basically a Class A material, gives you unleaded gasoline protection, gasoline, really no higher than 94 octane, however, on the gasoline.
So nitrile and neoprene used in applications where oil
I would say carburetor gaskets, any kind of trash pump gaskets where there's oil around, any kind of liquid oils, diesel, stuff like that. And
then you said nitrile is the more oil resistant of the two?
Yes, yeah. Okay. Most of your nitriles are a Class A specification tube, compound rather, and your neoprene could be a B or a C, so a little less oil resistance.
All right. What else?
EPDM is the next one. That's good for chemical service, good for heat, ozone resistance. Most people who are putting rubber around skylights and stuff on roofs use an EPDM material because it does help with the ozone. Everybody's seen a green garden hose that's green when you buy it, but after a season or two, it kind of turns goldish. Well, that's an ozone attack. And same thing with sheet rubber. If you have something that's out in the sun consistently, it's going to start breaking down and eventually get brittle and crack.
So EPDM, chemical resistance, heat resistance, UV, ozone, a good outdoor material, kind of like the Tiger Green EPDM suction hose.
And you would use an EPDM gasket like in our in our couplings for any kind of chemical plant use where there's acids, bases, stuff like that for resistance rather than just a plain gasket. So.
What else?
Then I would say the last one would be natural rubber. That's an abrasive resistant material used in sandblasting operations. Any kind of material handling. Out west in the southwest, they use pure gum sheet rubber for cement and mining chutes where there's copper and gold mining being done. A lot of sandblasters use pure gum for sandblast curtains around windows, clocks. So if they're sandblasting the grit, it wouldn't scratch the glass or any other porcelain or anything that's in the room. And it basically, because of the resilience of the pure gum, the sand and grit just spins right off, and it doesn't abrade the material, so you could take it from job to job if you're, that type of contractor.
Okay, so gum rubber, also referred to as natural rubber, abrasion
Right.
resistance,
Yeah.
kind of like our Boomer vac truck hose.
Yeah, gum rubber actually and natural are the same. The only difference is when you say natural rubber, it's basically tan. If you say pure gum, it could be tan or black. Just like a sandblast hose tube would be black, a sheet rubber would be tan. So, and I guess that's about the extent of the compounds. There are Vitons that we supply and sell. We have silicones, we have Hypalon, which gives you higher heat and better chemical resistance with bases and certain acids. Where EPDM is a general chemical type material. It doesn't give you that high heat and some other performance on real acidic liquids.
And silicone as well, I believe you were mentioning before.
Silicone would be basically for high heat.
The highest heat.
Like, for example, on pizza oven doors, you've probably seen a red gasket. That would be silicone. Hospital laundry dryers for sheets and bedding. Again, it's a 400-degree, 450-degree gasket that's used for the disinfectant and cleaning of beddings and stuff like that.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thanks for taking some time to clear up a little bit of the mystery for us of what is sheet rubber. We all feel a little bit more informed about the product line now, and we thank you for your time.
Okay, very good.